talk about today? Well, I put project management up there, so that seems like something we could at least spend a little bit of time talking about. So why talk about project management? Because I thought this was a design course, right? Well, an interesting point is that project management is actually going to be a huge part of your life once you start working professionally. Everything you do is really going to be part of a project. Okay, you might say, well, I'm in the engineering department, or I'm part of the technical team. Fantastic, that's wonderful. But as a part of that department, or as a part of that team, you will be assigned to a project. Okay, so it seems like we should spend a little bit of time talking about what a project is and what it means for you. Because if you understand what you're actually assigned to, in theory, you should do a better job with it, right? All right, well, let's take a look at what we got here. So what is project management? So it's all about resources. Just remember POSM. You all know what POSM stands for, right? No? No. You are good, because I've got it written down here, so we should be able to do this. So project management is the discipline of planning, organizing, securing, and managing resources to achieve a goal. Now, what's interesting about project management is that it's temporary. Projects don't last forever. They decide, a company or an organization decides to do something, says, I'm going to spend money to do this. It creates a project, you do it, and then it's over. It's done with. You move on to other things. These things don't last forever. So it's different from a department. It's different from a company. It's a very temporary thing. Now, temporary can actually be years. Projects do go on for a long period of time, but they can also be very, very short. And what's the ultimate goal? So why work on a project? Achieve all the project's objectives while dealing with all of its constraints. It's that last little part, dealing with the constraints. That, just sort of slide that in at the end. But ultimately, that can occupy a lot of people for a very long time. So, let me ask you a question. Have you guys ever organized a project? Of course, the answer is yes. Right? So let's think about this. Let's just sort of run through it, because you've done it before. This isn't something that's just dropped off the sky. So let's say one of your friends is getting ready to have a birthday party. Okay, let's say it's one of those significant ones. They're turning 21, and you are their best friend in the entire world. You're going to organize a birthday party for them. What are you going to do? What's the first thing you're going to do now that you've decided to organize a birthday party for your friend who's turning 21? Number one thing.
Alcohol. Get a budget.
Money.
Oh yeah, now we're saying plan. Well, you got to do something, right? All right. So what are the questions? In no particular order. What are the questions you're going to have to deal with?
How many friends do you have?
How many friends? And you got to figure out who those friends are, right? What are his interests?
Is there a girl or guy?
I don't like drinking. That's going to be a problem. What else we got?
Is there a girl or guy?
Well, you pick. What is it going to be, a girl or guy?
If they say guy, you just take him out.
So, but that's interesting. So depending on whether it's a girl or guy, you might do different things.
Yeah.
Driving.
Okay, that's cool. No, that's a good observation. What else we got?
Your DT.
I'm sorry, your what?
Your DT.
Your DT.
Your designated the drunk driver.
Let's go. I don't want to go with that. What does DTE stand for?
I say DD.
Designated driver.
DDE?
DD.
The DD. DD, designated driver. You kids and your cool lingo, man. Okay. All right, so you're right. So now that would assume that you're going to go someplace and drink, right? As opposed to hunkering down and just polishing off a couple fifths, right? Okay, all right, that's cool. Once you get off. What else? Now, I guess nobody said it, but you got to pick a date. Right?
Your birthday.
You know how this works. Birthdays are always like on Wednesdays. That's no good. You're going to have to push it off to Friday or something like that. Okay, what else are you going to have to think about for this birthday? Is this going to cost some money? The alcohol's got to come from someplace, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a bring your own. They got a lot of friends if that's happening, right? So you can see what the story is. Now, so what's going to happen is you're going to do this planning. Obviously, you got to get in contact with these people, right? RSVP maybe, or at least invite them and see if they're going to show up for the birthday party. The birthday party is going to happen, right? It's going to be the best birthday party ever. What's going to happen during the birthday party? What's your role?
To give the birthday boy.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, well, is it going to be a surprise party? If it's a surprise party, somebody's got to distract them, right? And then somebody's got to get them actually to the party itself on time, or approximately on time, correct? Will you have a role while the party's going on? If it's at your place, you certainly do, right? put that down. Stop playing with that. Get out of there. Stop messing with that, right? You know, you've got stuff going on. If somebody collapses during the birthday party, if you've got bodies laying on the front yard, that's sort of your responsibility, right? Fabulous. It was a great party. Everything was fantastic. Everybody had a good time. The party's over. And it sort of looks like a battlefield, right? Whose responsibility is it to clean up? Birthday boy, congratulations. I gotta follow up here. But somebody's got to wrap that up, right? Somebody's got to undo all the damage that was done. When that's all taken care of, is the party over? Just a hopefully pleasant memory? Well, congratulations. I mean, effectively, that's project management at its core, right? We don't think about it that way. You plan a birthday party, right? But effectively, you went through all the stages that we go through for project management, right? A little less formal, okay? You didn't have as much paperwork and stuff like that. But you did it, and the reason you did it was so that you didn't forget anything. And so that the birthday went off well, and that the birthday boy or girl had a good time, right? And if you do a good job of it, it works out very well. And the police don't actually show up until later in the birthday party, as opposed to before the thing actually gets off the ground. Right? So an interesting thing about project management is that it is sort of a science. You know, so people are project managers. And you can become project management certified. There's something called PMP. It's a product management professional. It's a certificate, so it's not a college degree or anything like that, but it's a certificate. You can take a test, you pass the test, and you become PMP certified. Now, because it's a money-making organization that does that, you have to keep taking training classes to keep your certification. Okay? The organization that administers that's an organization called PMI. It's the Program Management Institute. They've got themselves a cash cow going here, okay? Because they're sort of the only game in town when it comes to getting certified for being a project management professional. When you take a look at job ads going forward, what you're going to see is we're looking for a project manager, must be PMP certified. Now you know what it is. Basically, they took a test, like a $300 test, and passed it. Okay?
There are some hour requirements.
There are some hour requirements.
Hours of project management.
Exactly. And that's a very good point, right? So they're looking for people with some experience and stuff like that, right? So do it before you can become certified at doing it. So we'll check with that one. So it's sort of a science. There's some rules to it. It didn't just drop off out of the sky to us. There's actually 3 guys who are basically attributed with inventing or coming up with the rules that underpin project management. Frederick Taylor, a gentleman by the name of Henry Gannett, and another gentleman by the name of Henry Vail. Now, what's interesting is Frederick Taylor is sort of the guy who started the whole thing. He came up with what's called scientific management. And what's really weird is when I tell you what scientific management is, you're going to go, that's obvious. I mean, he gets credit for that, but you got to put yourself back in the time. So we go back to the early 1900s. And in the early 1900s, what's happening is they're building factories for the first time. Remember, before that, late 1800s, everybody was a farmer, right? You had a farm, you planted the wheat grew up, you went out with your horses, you harvest the wheat, you threshed it, and then you repeated it the next spring. But that's what everybody did. That was everybody's job. Well, when they started building factories, farmers started coming in and saying, I'm sort of tired of being a farmer. You know, I'm more than willing to work in your factory. They'd say, fabulous, stand here, do this, and then they'd leave them be. Right? And stuff would come along the assembly line, and they'd do whatever they're going to do, and stuff started coming out the other end. But they were producing crap, basically. Right? So the factories were cranking out stuff, but there was really no quality to what was coming out. It was sort of what they were trying to do, but a lot of it was garbage. It wasn't very good at all. It was inconsistent. And that's where Frederick Taylor showed up. And he watched what these farmers were doing in the factory, and he said, listen, there's got to be a better way of doing this. So he actually came up with 4 rules. And I apologize, because they do seem sort of obvious, but at the time, these were breakthrough things. People went, wow, really? Should we do it that way? His first rule was he replaced rule of thumb work methods with methods based on scientific study. So he actually stood there and watched the farmer do something on the assembly line. You know, so maybe it's a three-part thing. So he'd walk over here, he'd get something, he'd bring it back, and then he'd walk over here, get something, and bring it back, and then he'd reach down here and get something and put it, and that was his job, right? And he looked at it, he said, wow, that seems really, sort of a waste. Why don't you bring that container over here, why don't you bring that container over here, and then he can just stay here, reach, grab, pow, and he'll be done shorter time, and he'll actually do a better job of what he's doing. And we sit here and we go, well, that's sort of obvious, isn't it? But at the time, it wasn't. The second thing he came up with is he talked about scientifically selecting, training, and developing each employee rather than passively letting them just stand there and train themselves. So back in the day, the guy would walk in off the farm and say, hey, I'm willing to be an assembly person. They put him right there and say, cool, you're an assembly person, go for it, with no training. And so he'd sort of like watch the guy to the left, watch the guy to the right, and he'd just sort of do his job, and he'd do it fairly badly. So he came up with the concept, well, why don't we train people to actually do the jobs that they're doing? Third thing he came up with was to provide detailed instructions and supervision of each worker in the performance of their task. So he came up with the concept of supervisors. In other words, you should have a supervisor who you report to, and that supervisor should be responsible for the work that you do. And you go, well, of course, those are bosses and managers. But the concept is back in the beginning, they really didn't have that idea. And the final thing that he had is he said, let's divide the work equally between the people doing the work and the people who are supervising them. He said the people who are supervising have the job to basically split up the work, okay? And the people who are doing the work obviously have the job to actually do the work. He said it should be sort of a 50-50 split. What's interesting is I'm not sure if we still have that concept today. I'm not sure if managers have about a 50-50 split. I think if you talk to either one of those groups, they think that they're doing more than the other group. Mr. Gannett here came up with something called, Gantt. Mr. Gantt came up with something called Gantt charts. Are you guys familiar with Gantt charts? Okay, there we go. All right, that's good. And then Mr. Feo, he actually came up with the 5 components that we consider to be making up traditional project management today. So basically, these 3 guys together came together and they made what we use, put together the fundamental components that go into project management. All right, so let's talk about what we have here. Project management, I'm going to take you all the way up to about 100,000 feet. So let's go up there and just sort of take a look down. I want to give you an overview of what project management is. Remember, when you go out, when you're working, when you're out in the professional world, you're going to be right in the middle of this. You're going to be flowing through this. You're going to be part of a team, part of a project, and you're going to find yourself in each one of these different stages. Different things going on at different times. Different things are going to be asked of you at the different stages. All right, so the very first thing that we're going to do here is what's called initiating. Initiating, when they say, hey, let's go ahead and design a blue widget. Somebody has a fantastic idea, and somebody with some cash has that idea. The very first thing you have to do is initiate, which is basically, let's write down what we're going to do. Long before we start to do it, let's make sure that we're all on the same page, that we're going to be doing the same thing. Let's make sure we understand what we're going to do. Spend some time up front scoping it out, basically. What is it? And probably just as importantly, what isn't it? Let's make sure that we're there, okay? And you go, well, we all sort of know it's a blue widget. Just go off and do it, right? But wait. If you're working in a business environment, you're actually doing it, it's going to cost you a lot of money. You're going to have people, you're going to have machines, you're going to have parts. Long before you make that investment, why don't you make sure you can put your hands around it? Make sure you can actually do it. And that's what initiating is all about. You notice that there's a go and no-go little arrows all over this particular chart. What's interesting about this is after you're initiating, you've got a go, no-go decision. Okay? So here you go. I've scoped it out. I've figured out what it's going to take to make a blue widget. And this is an excellent time to sit down and say, should we even do this? If it turns out that we have to kill baby seals to make really good blue widgets, that may not be the type of product that we want to put together. It just, yeah, great profit and stuff like that. There just might be a downside from a PR point of view. The next thing that we do here is called planning. Planning is when we say, yes, we understand what we're supposed to do. Now let's take it to the next stage. Let's say, if we're going to do this, who do we need? What do we need? How are we going to do it? How much cash do we actually need? Boom, boom, boom. Let's work out the real details, because now we've got some commitment to doing it. Notice that there's another no-go-no there. We may have gotten to this point, and the price of gold has quadrupled. And it turns out we use a lot of gold in the product that we're going to make. So what seemed like a really good idea right here, by the time we get down to here, is no longer a good idea. It's no longer feasible to do it. So we say, sorry, it just isn't going to happen. We get down to executing. Executing is exactly what it sounds like. Doing it. We've talked about it, we've scoped it, we've planned it. Now let's just get down to it. Let's just go ahead and do it. And this is where project management really kicks in, because there's a whole monitoring and controlling function. As you're doing it, as you're doing your job, there's a whole project management infrastructure that gets involved and says, how's it going? Are you ahead of the schedule, behind the schedule? Why are you spending so much money? Why have you spent so much? Why haven't you spent more money? We were expecting you to spend a lot more money, you haven't spent it. Is something wrong? Can't you get something? Constantly going on. And by the way, the monitoring and controlling can cause you to change your plans, can change how you execute things, all sorts of stuff like that. So there's a little circle of activity going on here. And the very last thing is closing. And what's interesting about closing is generally we don't think that much about it, and hopefully there's not much to it. But you've got to wrap this stuff up, right? If you're buying stuff from contractors, if you've got materials sitting around in your factory, when the project's over, you've got to do something with all this stuff. And there's just a matter of wrapping stuff up. After the birthday party was over, woohoo! The next morning when you woke up and the front yard was trashed and you were missing windows, you had to do something about that. You just had to wrap it up, and that's exactly what closing is all about. So there you go. You got 5 steps. This is the 100,000-foot view of a project. Okay? This is where you will spend your time. Everybody likes to spend their time in the executing part. But here's the interesting thing, here's the secret to life. You're really going to spend a lot more time in the planning part. Okay? Because planning is where you identify the problems that are going to trip you up, and that's where you really want to spend as much time as possible to make sure you don't have these nasty surprises. Here's the best part about today, guys. I'm going to share with you my breakthrough idea. I've got an idea for a product. I want to have it on the shelves by Christmas. This is going to revolutionize the world. I don't know if you guys know, but Amazon had a big press release yesterday, and they talked about their fire. Forget it. It's going to fade. When I share this product idea with you, that's going to be old news. This is what's going to really rock the world. You ready? I mean, I don't want to just spring it. You got to say that you're ready before I share this with you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Get up. Here you go, guys. Here is my breakthrough idea. And you're the first ones I'm sharing this with. I call this the Marco Polo remote control finder. Okay? And this solves a problem that we all have. You guys all have remote controls. And you lose them, right? And when you lose them, what do? Well, first off, you become angry and upset because you want to change the channel or whatever. And then what do? You tear the room apart, right? It's here, I know it's somewhere. And you always discover either A, that yeah, it is someplace, or else you carry it to another room and you set it down. And you feel angry. And you waste a lot of time. The Marco Polo remote control finder is going to solve that problem. Now, my father-in-law has the same problem. A couple years ago, we had like something that you clip on it, and then you have the other half of it, and if you lose it, you can click the part that you have, and it chirps or does some sort of garbage like that. Well, he lost both parts, so that didn't really do any good. So the Marco Polo remote control finder is going to solve that problem. Now, you guys,
Save my marriage.
it could save you. It could, you gotta be careful about the advertising, but that could be version 2.0. So here's the thing: when you guys were growing up, you guys went to the pool, right? You guys ever played the game Marco Polo?
So if you yell Marco, it'll just go Polo.
And that's it, right? So you already know. I don't even need a user guide for this. I mean, this is clear, right? So the concept is it's going to have a speaker with a built-in microphone. Okay? So when you lose your remote control, you'll go, oh, dang, I don't remember. You'll stand in the room and you'll go, Marco. And what's going to happen is, because it's got a speaker, see, it's going to say,
Polo.
there you go. And then you go, oh, it's a little bit over here, and you go over here and you say Marco, and it's going to say,
Polo.
hey, see? And you'll find it. Now what's even cooler, it's got a flashing light. Okay, so the light will start to flash. It'll flash for like a minute after it hears Marco for the first time. Truly, I think this is going to be a revolutionary product. I think this is going to solve a lot of problems and save a lot of relationships. But the problem is this product doesn't exist. It's a little bit of a problem. And I want to have it on the shelf by Christmas. Okay, because that's my big selling time, right? So obviously I need to create it. Sounds like I need a project, right? So maybe we should run through what I'm going to have to do to make sure that the Marco Polo remote control finder actually sees the light of day. Sounds like a fair deal?
Voice recognition.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Voice recognition.
Voice recognition. Oh my God! The engineering alone should make this worth $1 million, but we'll have to do something else. All right, so What's the very first thing we did? Well, we talked about this. It's the initiating process, right? This is how you kick things off. And remember, you know, generally, back in the day when I was your age and sitting, I go, this is so boring. Why would I spend any time? It's the Marco Polo, man. I'm just going to go ahead and start that. The concept is to stop, okay? A lot of ideas, a lot of concepts that sound good, that people get excited about, are really, really bad ideas that should never see the light of day. So things like initiating processes are designed to make sure that you go, wait, stop. Let's make sure we take a very careful look at what we're planning on doing before we start spending millions of dollars on it. Let's make sure that we all have the same view of it. You guys heard the story of the 5 blind men and the elephant? It's a pretty classic story. You know, so 5 blind men show up, and they're led up to an elephant, and one touches the leg, and one touches the trunk, and one touches the tail, and they all have a different view of what an elephant is, right? And just because they touch a different part of it. Same gist of it with a project, right? When you say Marco Polo remote control finder to me, I might be thinking something, and you might be different from what you're thinking. So the whole purpose of this initiating thing is to do a scope. Okay, let's make sure that we're understanding what we're going on. So we want to determine the nature and scope of the project. We need to understand the business environment that we're going to be operating in. Is there any competition for this? No. Nobody else is making a Marco Polo remote control finder. Right, so inferior products might be out there. You need to make sure that all the necessary controls are incorporated, identify deficiencies, and identify how you're going to fix the deficiencies. All right, so this is good at a high level. That's fine. But let's talk about my product here. All right. So what's the first question we're going to have to answer? What is the nature and scope of the project? What are my business requirements and measurable goals? So what am I trying to do here, guys?
Make money.
Well, that's definitely one goal. And how am I going to do that?
By creating a product.
Yes, and what product am I going to create?
The Marco Polo remote control.
Fabulous. And what does it do?
It makes itself easy to find
Excellent. And how does it do that?
through speaker,
Yes.
microphone combination, and a flashing light.
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty obvious, right? Congratulations. That's very good. What's the current business environment? Is there any competition out there? How do people solve this problem today? Marriage counselors. Right? Okay, that's one.
They sell zip lines for remote control.
You know, I guess there's a huge market for replacement remote controls, right? It's lost. You're never going to find that. Buy another one. A universal, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Any other solutions to this problem? Bank chains? There's not much. I think it's sort of wide open. Yes.
Like, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you have to say to trigger this thing, but what if you have a family member named Marco, or say a word often that sounds like Marco?
Congratulations. You know, actually, what's very interesting is probably just having a family member named Mark.
Yeah, or just something.
So yeah, no, I think that would be fairly. Hey, Mark, whoop, this thing's polo,
Or you're
polo,
like,
polo.
when you see my parka and it starts to go off, like that would get really annoying.
You know, so it brings up an interesting point. Maybe you have to train it
I guess this is funny.
or tune it. And also, by the way, what happens if I have a particular accent? Right? You know, is it going to be able to determine that I'm actually saying Marco, or maybe I have a list or something like
You
that?
have a specific password for it. So it recognizes your voice and you say your password and then.
Maybe I don't want the kids to be able to find it, or even worse.
Well, then the kids can't just annoy you by saying,
As-
Marco,
Actually,
Marco.
I hadn't even thought about that, but that's a good one. Last thing I want is for the kids to be running by the room going, Marco. Stop it, you kids. Yes.
Not to solve the problem where you can make it programmable, so you can say the word that you want on the remote.
You know, that's true, so it doesn't necessarily have to be Marco. It could be default to Marco, but you could change it to something else, and you could program it using however you speak, right? That would be fantastic. Look at this. We're already up to version 3.0 here. That's fantastic. All right.
Let's all drop out and go build this.
Woo! I tell you, it's still sitting here. Need to make sure that all the necessary controls are implemented in the project. Okay, what kind of controls would we need for this?
TV controls.
Well, you know, it's interesting. We're talking about project controls. What could happen if you have any sort of project? What could go crazy on it? Budget. Yeah, that's huge. What else? When do I want to start to sell this? Scope is right. We could do a bell and a flashing, and then we could have like a little bead thing of LED lights around it. It starts to pulse and stuff like that. So we can do lots of stuff. When did I want to start to sell this? Christmas. So when does it need to be done by?
December.
Definitely, right? Yeah. So I could have, you know, My schedule could go crazy, right? Hey Jim, we're good to go, we'll have it done by February. That's gonna do me no good.
We're gonna hire a VP.
Yeah, more people, that would solve the problem every single time. All right,
I'll think about that.
what are the deficiencies that may exist in this project plan? You guys know anything about building a remote control? You know
Are we
anything?
building remote control, or are we building a device that's attaching to it?
I think it's a whole remote control
You
act.
think, I mean, we need to have it settled by.
Then we need to scope it out, eh? I guess we also have the voice recognition stuff. Do you know anything about voice recognition?
Here, there.
I'm sure there's a chip for it, right?
Your
There's an app.
son's kid probably.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think I can snap it together. All right, and then, by the way, once I figure out what my deficiencies are, I'm going to have to figure out how to fix them, right? Great. Knowing that you have a deficiency is a fantastic place to start, but knowing how to fix it is probably even more important. All right. When you're doing a project, one of the first things you want to do is something called a work breakdown structure. Okay? Effectively, what this says is, I've got this big, complicated thing I want to do. I want to throw a birthday party. Okay? Then what you want to do is you want to break it down into the subcomponents. I got to invite people. I got to make sure I've got refreshments, shall we say, and then I've got to make sure I have entertainment. Okay? And then we break that down farther and farther and farther. What you really want to do is get down to this level 3 or level 12, whatever you happen to get down to. And these are the things that you actually have to do. Okay? And this is how you make a big, scary, complicated thing much more manageable. If I do these things, then I can do these things, and oh, by the way, then I can put that thing together. It's called a work breakdown structure. Project managers spend a ton of time working on this. And if they get this right, then what it means is that they can estimate how much the whole thing is going to cost, and they have a chance of estimating how long it's going to take. So this is sort of the secret sauce, saying, hey, if you can get down to the brass tacks, so to speak, you can start to get your hands around just how big of a project is this.
It's usually around M2.
Oh yeah, well what happens generally is you do it, and then you discover stuff. Oh, whoops, forgot that. Oops, forgot that. All right, so for the Marco Polo remote control, what do we got here? Well, we're going to need to set up some different divisions, as we said, vice presidents. So what we're going to need, what? Engineering, production, marketing, maybe some sales. So what's engineering going to have to work on?
Building it, designing it.
Well, what like components? What are they going to have to? What kind of decisions do they have to make?
Just making sure that everything works.
Well, yeah, good, but let's get a little bit more. It's a remote control. What are they going to have to do? Because it's a remote control. It's got a lighty thing. It's got the voice recognition thing. So what's engineering going to have to do?
Integrate these things.
Well, that's true. I guess they got to design them first, though, right? So they got to create a universal remote control, right? They can buy it or build it, don't really care. But we need a remote control before we can add into our bells and whistles or flashing lights to it. What else we got? You need a speaker. Maybe a Bose speaker, right? That'd be really good. When it says Polo, I really want to be thinking, okay. And then we need a flashing light. Big light, little light, LED light, bulb light, solar powered light, whatever, okay. Production, now these guys who are actually going to make it, what kind of decisions do they have to make? They got to choose the plastic. Is it environment? You know, are they going to get the cheap plastic from China? Or are they going to get the green plastic from the firm in San Francisco and they're going to employ, whatever, okay, whatever. I know what you guys are going to say on that one. We need buttons, right? Should they have little vibrating buttons that when you touch them sort of vibrate back so you know you actually, yeah, okay. Okay, and what else? They need a manufacturing location. Where should we build this thing? North Carolina?
China.
China? Hong Kong?
North Korea.
Singapore? Korea? All right, a lot of different choices. In marketing, what do we got? We got to segment the market. You know, this product, not everyone's going to buy it. We got to figure out who's going to buy it. Is it divorced Hispanic women, 45 to 50? You know, exactly who's going to be buying my product? We got to pick channels. Where would you go to buy this type of product? Where would you expect to see it? Best Buy. Walmart, that'd be fantastic. But you know, if I get into Walmart, it'll be cheap.
Amazon.
Amazon, definitely on Amazon. That'd be fantastic. Radio Shack, maybe? Okay, Target. Target would be a little bit more. I ended up last. All right. And now I got to come up with pricing. What do you think this would be worth? How much would you be willing to pay?
3 easy payments, $9.99.
Oh, bring it up. You know, already I'm thinking TV commercial. I'm thinking, okay, that's fantastic. That would show well on TV. All right, we got our sales going on here. What else we got in sales? We need a sales team. We need people to go out and knock on doors, throw flyers on cars, all that sort of stuff like that. We're going to need to have sales quotas. Okay, for once we got sales team, we've got to kick them in the butt and make sure they're out doing stuff. And what else we got? We've got to sign accounts. You're in charge of Best Buy, you're in charge of Radio Shack, you're in charge of whatever. Oh my God, this is a lot of effort. I mean, I'd be tired now, except for the fact that it's such a fantastic product. The world needs it. So clearly we've got to do this. All right. Planning and design process. What, the fun part? I don't know, the technical part? This is the cool stuff? So look at this. Create a project plan, create a resource plan, create a financial plan, create a quality plan, create a risk plan, create an acceptance plan, create a communication plan, create a procurement plan, contact the suppliers, and perform the phase review. Really? For a project? Now, are any of these tasks actually producing anything as far as the product goes? Absolutely not. Okay? So here's the key thing that I want you guys to understand here. When you're dealing with a real-world project that has project management associated with it, what you have to understand, there's a whole separate project management group. Those project managers are completely separate from everybody else. Okay? And they're hired by the company just to watch what's going on the project. In the real world, there's two groups that everybody hates. Would you like to know who they are? I'm just saying, if you're picking careers, this might be important information to have, right? At the bottom of the totem pole, the person that everybody hates the most is the quality person. QA, quality assurance. Nobody likes the quality assurance person. And the reason is because when the quality assurance person shows up in your queue, are they there to compliment you? They're never there to compliment you. They're always there because there's a problem with the quality of the product, and they fingered you as being the source of the quality problem. Number two on that totem pole, one up from the bottom, is the project manager. Project manager, do project managers ever show up to compliment you?
He's the best.
No! Well, you're right, if they were really good. But I've never met one of them. They're showing up to complain about something. What are they going to be complaining about?
Everything.
Time and money.
Time, money, resources. Oh, you know, you wanted more people for that? Sorry, we're just not going to be able to do that. It's not in the budget. Or, you know, you're 2 days behind. Where's your quality plan? Well, that'd be the ultimate, right? So yeah, nobody likes the project manager because they're always there, sort of a mom figure, sort of a nag. Yeah, I'll get it done. Hey, and what they deal with is paperwork, right? I need to check it off, check it off, check it off. So the world has actually two types of project managers in it. One type of project manager is really good, and they understand the project, they understand the company, they know exactly what's going on, okay? And they understand, you know, is that a good decision or a bad decision on how does it impact the final product. The other type, and unfortunately sort of the larger group of project managers out there, truly are just project managers. It could be a blue widget or a red widget or a tractor or a missile. It doesn't matter to them. They don't really care what the product is, and nor should they, really, right? They're just basically checking boxes off. They're making sure the paperwork gets taken care of. And they know this group has a deliverable. They're going to make sure that deliverable gets done. And this group has a deliverable. They're going to make sure that deliverable gets done. Whether it's correct, they don't know, nor do they care. Okay? Because they're project managers. They're just making sure that everything keeps moving along. They're not really inspecting what gets produced, because that's not their job. So, the world is made up of a couple different ways. That's an important thing to understand. So this is all the cool stuff. All right, so let's talk about our Marco Polo thing here. Identify deliverables and work breakdown. We already did that. Identify activities needed to complete those deliverables. All right, we're sort of there. Estimate resource requirements of the activities. Time and cost. All right, so when do we want to start selling this? Cool. And Christmas is how far away? Good enough away, right? Well, if we want to sell it by Christmas, that means it's got to be available by when? Now, okay, which is impossible. So as soon as possible, right? We'd like to have at least, what, like a month? Would this be a good stocking stuffer, so to speak? Maybe. As long as we can price it right, but I don't know if the 3 payments of $9.99 is going to quite cut that. But okay, we got to come up with a budget. This is certainly going to cost some money, right? We better be figuring out how much we have to spend on it. And I guess that also means we're going to have to figure out how many we're going to sell and how much we're going to make and all that other sort of stuff like that. We've got to worry about risk, and we've got to get oh, look at that. Get formal approval to begin work. So we've done all this stuff. We've come up with this design. We're all ready to go. And now we got to go to Dad, basically, and get his approval to go forward. And the answer is yeah. Because, you worked out the design. But once again, if you're requiring, baby seal fur or something like that, the guys upstairs, time has moved on. What seemed like a really good idea 6 months ago may no longer seem like a good idea. They may have some other hot idea that they really want to do, and your fantastic project that you've been off in some dark corner coming up with the design for, all of a sudden no longer really seems like all that great of an idea that they want to pursue. This happens an awful lot. All right? Executing. So this is doing it. This is actually production. You can see a lot of things, quality, communication, a couple different communications, an awful lot of procurement. Because when you're doing it, you have to actually buy stuff, get stuff coming in. For our Marco Polo, so we've got 4 groups here, right? Engineering, production, marketing, and sales. So engineering is going to be cranking out the design. That design is going to be going out to production. Production is going to be coming back and saying, your design sucks. Really, it's not a very good product. And we can't build it that way. So engineering is going to make changes, go off to production. Production is going to start cranking them out. They're going to tell marketing, hey, we're getting ready, getting closer, getting closer, getting closer. And they're going to be telling sales, we've got 1 million units in the warehouse. Go sell them. Sales is going to be saying, oh my God, ship, all that sort of stuff. And marketing and sales, dear God in heaven, let's hope they're talking to each other. Otherwise, we've got a major disconnect. So what you start to see is that all these organizations are going to have to talk to each other in order to make the Marco Polo remote control a success, right? And that project manager is going to be running around like a chicken with their head cut off, trying to make sure that all of these groups are talking to each other as the product is being created, right? It has engineering. Where's engineering in their design? Are they almost done? How's production doing? Are they actually creating them and shipping them? By the way, is sales actually getting them out the door? Boom, boom, boom. And the reason the project management does that is because the senior executives, which are not shown on this particular diagram, are going to come to the project managers. And they're going to say, how's it going? Right? Can you give me an overall view of where we're at? Where are we having problems? Because if they go to engineering, engineering's going to go, oh, it's fine. Everything's going, our part is done. Right? If they go to marketing, marketing's going to say, not a problem whatsoever. If they go to sales, sales always lies. So they'll be saying it's going fine. And production's always going to go, oh my God, it's the end of the world. We're not going to be able to do this. We're never going to have a downtime. Life sucks. Right? So instead, they go to the project management and say, tell me what's really going on. Okay, that's all I have. All right. Monitoring and control processes. Fantastic. So once again, this is that whole separate control plane. This is all the stuff that's going on in the background while you're doing your design, production, and stuff like that. We're going to have to measure the ongoing process. Where are we? That's what these senior executives are going to want to know about. Monitoring the project variables, cost, effort, scope, identifying the corrective actions. There's always problems. Things always go wrong. Your darn Chinese suppliers somehow can't get the plastic that you're going to use for it because, oh, there's some environmental constraints, whatever the story is and stuff like that. So then you have to worry about that. You've got to react to that. You've got to influence the factors that can circumvent integrated and change controls. People are always making changes. You've got to make sure that you can coordinate those changes. Make sure they don't make changes just because they want to make changes. All right? Closing. Christmas comes, Christmas goes. It was fantastic. We still have a warehouse. We still got parts. We got to clean all that stuff up. So that's called Project Close. We've got to make sure that everything gets basically cleaned up and put away. We also got to make sure that we pay all of our suppliers. Okay? It's not that big of a deal, but once again, just like after the birthday party, we got some cleanup to do to make sure that we don't have anybody ticked off at us so when we plan our next party, they don't call the cops on us before the party even gets off the ground. Poof! All right. If you need a mental image when it comes to project management, this is the one you probably want to keep in mind. There are 3 components to every project, right? Time, quality, and cost. If I want to have my Marco Polo controller quicker, sooner, what's going to happen to quality? What's going to happen to cost? All right? If I want to have the world's best Marco Polo remote control, if I want to boost my quality, what's going to happen to my time? It's going to take longer, right? What's going to happen to my cost? Go up. All right. If I want to have the cheapest remote control on the market so everybody buys it, what's going to happen to my quality? Down. Down, down, down. What's going to happen to my time? Down. It's interesting. It can go either way, right? It may take longer to have a cheaper product, right? For whatever reason. So you can see that they're all interrelated. That's really the takeaway here. You can have whatever you want. It can be cheap, you can have it tomorrow, or else you can have the highest quality one. but that's going to influence the other two. Well, it's crazy little thing where you adjust one thing and it messes up the other two, basically. All right? Gantt chart, you guys tell me you know what it is. You will see these forever. Here's the trick with Gantt charts. They're very cool. They're used a ton in Disney. Okay? Basically, you have a task over here. You have a start date and an end date. And if you're even really cool, you've got a little arrow that says this task influences this task. I need to complete this one before I can start this one. There's a piece of software called Microsoft Project. $1 zillion, everybody uses it. Project managers live in that, okay? That's how they talk to each other. Problem is if your project has more than about 30 steps to it, it's longer than a screen, and becomes very difficult to communicate, okay? And this sort of hides a lot of what's going on. If somebody's out sick, or if they're lose some plastic, or something goes on like that, this can change in a heartbeat. So executives love it because it's very easy to take a look at, very easy to get a quick snapshot of what's going on. And it's okay, but it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Here's a quick snapshot of what a Gantt chart would look like for our particular project. Remember, we want to have it available by beginning of December, so this is sort of how it worked out. Remember, we had our initiation project, planning and design, execution, monitoring, and completion. And I think completion wrapped up somewhere either late November or very, very early December. So it is possible to do this. Woo! A PERT chart. You don't see PERT charts that much, but they were invented by the Navy back in 1957, specifically because they had a huge Polaris nuclear submarine project that they were working on, and they need to make sure that it was actually being done on time. A PERT chart has a couple different things. Milestones are what the circles are. Tasks are what the arrows are. And here's the way you take a look at one of these. What's most important about a PERT chart is it can show you the critical path. Everybody likes to talk about the critical path method. They always like to talk about the critical path associated with the project. Critical path is what's going to take the longest. Okay, that's the key thing here. So if you take a look at this, this chart actually has two critical paths. One is BC. What you can see is that it's going to take 4 months to get here and 3 months to get here. So to get from milestone 10 to milestone 50 is going to take you a total of 7 months. Okay? Another way of getting there is ADF. Once again, that's going to be 3 and 1 and 3, so it's going to be another 7 months to get there. So the critical path in this PERT chart is 7 months. No matter how you skin it, this project's going to last for 7 months.
You can go there for 5, right?
What's that?
You can get there for
5. What's interesting, yeah, you can get there for 5, but I don't care because I got to do these other tasks, these other milestones, right? So congratulations, boom, 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 5 months, and then you're hanging out for 2 months, right? Because these other guys still have to get done, correct? Okay? And which actually brings up an excellent point. This path from 30 to 50, it's going to take 2 months. Does it matter that it's going to take 2 months? Not really. It's called float. I could add another 2 months to whatever this task E is, and it doesn't matter, right? Because that'll pop it up to 7. Everything else is going to take 7 anyway, all right? So what that's called is float. So if I had to steal resources or do something like that, that's the one that I would steal from, add it to something else, I go from there. So the concept behind a PERT chart is it allows you to see all of your milestones, see all your tasks, and it allows you to find your critical path. Project managers love critical paths, right? Because they can focus on the critical path. And as long as they make sure that critical path is going to end in time, then they're reasonably confident that the rest of the project is going to come together in time. Shall we talk briefly about your caps? First off, there's a homework that's due today. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to turn it in. Checking that pile up here. Please make sure that you've contributed to the pile before you leave the room. Where we're at. Pick the project, which you can continue to keep picking. Determine the problem statement. Got that taken care of. You guys wrote a description of your project. That's what you should have turned in today. We're not there yet, but we're going to be talking about creating an objective tree here in a little bit. Now, if you don't remember what an objective tree is, let's talk about that. Remember, this is how we did it for our portable audio device. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to take a look at what it's supposed to do, and then you start picking the individual components that make up what it's supposed to do. So we're not there yet. We start planting the seed. I want you guys to start kicking out. You guys have a bunch of different projects out there. Start to think about what an objective tree would look like for your particular project. Once again, the whole concept on this is to get you to start to scope it, right? It may turn out that the project that you're currently considering is huge, or won't fit inside of a semester. And if so, this is the time to realize it and to say, listen, I need to figure out a different scope for exactly what my project is going to be. Another thing I want you guys to be thinking about is which maybe set of EE professors are you going to approach and ask to be your mentor. So you know who all these folks are, you know what their research interests are, you have at least a project that you're working with right now, a capstone project that you're considering doing. The question is, which one of these folks best matches the interest area that you have, the capstone project that you're working on? I ask that you figure out a primary and a secondary, right? Because I'm eventually going to ask you to go have a talk with both of them, right? And see which one you have a better connection with, which one seems to be more interested in what you're planning on doing. You're sort of doing in an interview process. You're in the driver's seat on this stuff. Shall we have a brief talk about ethics? Sort of wrap things up with a quick ethics. Now this gentleman right here, Mr. Robert Stanford, he was doing really well. He got a night shift. He was Sir Robert, okay? And he was buying up British rugby teams like there was no tomorrow. Unfortunately, he's now in jail. Turns out he was operating an offshore bank. And he was basically running a big Ponzi scheme. Do you guys know what a Ponzi scheme is?
Yeah.
What is a Ponzi scheme?
Where the people that are coming in are paying the dividends for the people at the top.
Right. And who's the Mr. Big Ponzi in the U.S.?
Bernie Madoff.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So
Social Security.
I know that. So just a Ponzi scheme is, so I'll tell you what, you give me money, I'm gonna make you a ton of money and I'll give you the money back. So you all go, wow, that's great, Dr. Anderson, oh, here, let me give you $10. So people start giving me $10, and what happens is people keep giving me $10. So the first people who gave me $10, I start taking the $10 that are coming to me, and I give them back $100. Now I'm not making any money, I'm just taking money that's coming in and handing it out to the people who came in first. So who's going to get taken advantage of in this particular sequence? The people who come in last, right? Whoops, out of money. Which is crazy. I've never quite figured out why people do Ponzi schemes, because they're always going to fail, right? They have to eventually come in, but whatever. All right, so we're trying to build an ethical framework. Where are we so far? Well, we have 4 points of it. Recognize it, get the facts, evaluate your alternative actions, and make a decision. And now where we're at is right here. Act and reflect on the outcome. So listen, when ethical situations show up, you're going to, obviously, hopefully, detect it. You're going to say, listen, this is the direction I'm comfortable in going. Here's why I want to go in this particular direction. And you'll go in that direction. So after you act, you need to take a step back and say, how did that turn out? You know, I had expectations, and the reason that I made that decision is because I thought this is what was going to happen. That won't always happen. Okay? You may get surprised in an ugly way. And that what you need to do is basically learn from each one of your ethical decisions. Hopefully, every single one of them will be perfect. You go, excellent, got that one, did that one correctly again. The reality of the situation is that you probably have some that don't go the way you expected to. You need to realize that, and you need to factor that in the next time you make an ethical decision. Okay? You need to basically take care of all the stakeholders. You know, who got impacted by my decision? Okay? And the question is then, what have I learned? Okay? It's always a constant learning experience. All right, so let's take a look here. So we talked about this a little bit last time. Let's take one more stab at it. So congratulations, you're in charge of a brand new high-end computer. You did a fantastic engineering design work on that. You're the best. Congratulations. But there's one test you guys have to do. Maybe that the power system doesn't burst into flames or something along those lines. But it's going to take like another 3 weeks because it's like one of those ones where you cycle it over and over and over. You just can't do anything about that. 3 weeks before you're done with that test. Probability of failure is low. I mean, this thing never bursts into flames, but it's still one of those tests you have to do. Okay? And even if the test fails, you can do it pretty easily. Send out corrections to customers. Marketing is constantly pushing on you, saying, listen, it is time for us to ship because we're coming up on the end of the fiscal quarter next week. My question to you is, what should you do? Wait a few weeks. You got a test that's not done. Should you ship now, or should you wait till the test is done? So let's, I've been letting you guys get away with this, so I can't do that. I got to actually go. So let's break this into 2 parts. So who thinks you should go ahead and ship? Show of hands. you should wait for 3 weeks before you ship. All right, so I'm seeing a little bit more. Okay, so let's talk about the people who are willing to wait for 3 weeks. Look, probability of failure is low. Why are you waiting? Marketing guys are knocking on your door. Who's going to be harmed? Oh, well, you are. Your job's going to be harmed. I'll tell you that much.
It's still gonna cost the company a lot of money. Ship
Well,
it back.
it doesn't say that. I understand, and that's a responsibility. What did they say? Corrections can be made and sent out later to customers. It could even almost be a software correction too, right? Oh, whoops, that driver didn't work out. We'll just send you an update or whatever, right? So they don't actually. So I understand what you're saying, but let's assume in this case, no, it's not going to cost us.
So you're saying that this test is something that can set somebody's house on fire, or is it just something that it will be a glitch in the system and it won't work right, but we can correct it?
We don't have any information on that. Let's just say it's just a glitch.
Okay.
The product would not operate as advertised. Send it.
If they're already saying that they wouldn't mind sending out corrections.
Majority of people said don't send it.
But if they're already saying that corrections.
Yeah, 'cause you
are
say
made,
we
we don't
don't
mind
explode.
sending out corrections.
It's always a possibility.
Isn't the best thing to do is to defer the decision to somebody who, I mean, it's kind of like if you're the quality guy, I would say that, it didn't pass this test, you're the head of the company, you make the
So
decision.
here's his suggestion is defer it up. Let somebody who's more important make that decision. We got to understand people who are up that high are smart. What they'll do is they'll push it down. Let's go to the expert. What do you say? What should we do on this one? By the way, your job's unlocked. All right, so let's take a little bit back. Let's take a look at the next one. So your boss says, shucks, this has occurred before. We shipped it last time and there was no problem. He says if you don't want to sign off on it, then he's going to go ahead and sign off on it.
Hey, I let him do it.
So now let's talk about this. So you've got new information here. This is information you didn't have before. So, who in here says, wait, we should hold off and wait for 3 weeks? Even if your boss is telling you, whatever, I'll sign. So who says, okay, Mr. Garcia, anybody like? All right, so we have about 4. And who in here says, just ship it? And who hasn't voted? All right, yes. Wavering never does anybody any good.
I was the only
Guilty by association.
I saw a few where that did.
Whichever one fails, you're going to be associated with it because you didn't vote. There we go. All right. I mean, this is a tricky one, right? But as you said, you can almost make no decision, let your boss take the heat for it, right? Hey, boss, I'm going to stand up on moral grounds on this one, boss, because I know it doesn't matter because you're going to sign off on it. So there you go, right? But what's your boss going to be thinking about you if you don't sign off on it? Have you now become a problem employee? Okay. Don't you have a job to do? Aren't you supposed to make sure the company moves quicker, better, faster, makes more money? I mean, ultimately, isn't that why we're all working for the company? And here you are, just putting your foot down. Go figure that. All right. Last one, here we go. Products were shipped before this test was completed, but it happened when you were on a business trip. All right, so people make decisions when you weren't there. The production manager apologizes, but doesn't want to take any action. So they've already started to ship this thing. It hasn't passed that test. Now you're back in the office after your big vacation. What do? Do you say stop? Stop shipping? Or you say, well, we already started, so it doesn't matter. We'll just let it go. All right, so we'll do both here. So who says, I'm back from vacation, rested and relaxed, thank you very much, it was a great vacation. Oh my God, what are you people doing? You're shipping this thing before it's supposed to go out the door. Who says, I would make them stop shipping it until we get the test? We got 1, we got 2, 3, 4. And who says, well, what the heck, it's already out the door, just keep shipping, what the heck?
Sorry.
All right.
You can always correct him.
You can always correct it later.
To me, it's like impossible to make these decisions.
Yeah, it's the drivetrain on a Range Rover, and yeah, it locks up if you go over 50 miles an hour, but we can always, what are the odds somebody's going to a Range Rover over 50 miles an hour? I don't think so, man.
It's a computer.
If it's a computer, you can just ship it, right?
You said
Oh,
it
I'm
was
sorry.
just
You
the
were
software.
using Excel, and you did a big calculation, and you did a bet the business decision based on what Excel told you. By the way, there's a floating point error in Excel. Sorry, but we got an update for you. Oops. So your whole model was wrong, and it turned out horrible, and you lost your company. I'm really sorry about that, but I've got this software update for you that won't happen again. Right? Everything has unintended consequences, right? All right, so basically you guys are the ship away. So you guys really can't be complaining when you get inferior products, right? If you buy something bring it home and it doesn't work, what do?
Go back and get another one.
You go back and do a Hungarian exchange.
The warranty is sent back.
You should be sitting there going, well, that's okay. It's cool. I understand stuff happens. You know, they must have shipped it before it was ready, but I'm okay with that. I understand there's people under pressure. All right.
When you ship it out like that, you expect that if it does go wrong, you're gonna have people come back. That's a responsibility that you take when you make that decision. That if something goes down.
You know, but yes, you are correct. That's really expensive.
Yeah,
It
mostly, like if your Dell breaks, you call Dell and they tell you to send it, and then you send it. And then
You mean when your Dell breaks.
And what's your impression of Dell if you bought a product and then it broke?
Not buying it at all.
I'm not buying a Dell. I'm getting an HP. I'll get an Apple. Apple's better than everything. All right. So what did we cover today, guys? We went over what project management was. We talked about the 5 parts of managing a project. We talked ever so briefly about Gantt charts, ever so briefly about PERT charts, which are really the 2 key tools that they use to do that. We talked about creating an objective tree for your capstone project. I want you to be thinking about that. We talked about acting and reflecting on the outcome of your ethical decisions as you shift that power supply that may or may not burst into flames in somebody's house, but that's whatever. What are we going to do next time? Oh, hey, it's in-class presentation time next Tuesday. Fantastic. What are we going to be talking about? How you created your concepts. What are the 3 concepts are and how you think they would solve the problem. We're going to be talking about an explanation of the evaluation of your concepts and the selection of which one your team believes is best. It's going to be a little bit like American Idol. Yes, well, you chose the wrong one, clearly, obviously. All right, nothing to turn in. It all depends on your presentation. PowerPoint is permitted, of course. And who goes on Tuesday? This is the important part. Team Ohio, Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, New Jersey, and Virginia. Everybody who went on Thursday last time goes on Tuesday this time. By the way, if you went on Tuesday, you'll go on Thursday. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. We'll do it all again next week. Okay.